Attention please. This upload is only for educational purpose. No intention to infringe copyrights. Learning English with subtitles. GPITRAL. GPITRAL. Definitely a must-see. Follow us.
The ancient tallgrass prairie in America's heartland. It's as rich in history as it is in fertile ground. Though sparsely populated, the quiet isolation appeals to many of its residents.
Most people outside of the heartland picture only farms, and yes, that's what you see. But there are strange, bizarre things that are everywhere. And there are a lot of bizarre things that can happen in those spaces between the towns.
For some reason, a lot of strange things happen here. Witches, serpents, gnomes, goblins, devils, demons, you name it.
Within these flat, featureless plains, you can quickly find yourself in the middle of nowhere, where there's no one to hear you scream.
An empty country road, a bridge over a river.
In 1972, in the small town of Louisiana, Missouri, a giant hairy beast known as Momo spread panic and fear. 15-year-old Doris Harrison was babysitting her brothers when she met the monster face to face.
I've never seen the Lord Jesus Christ, but I have seen Momo.
A blurred image of the monster in the woods, a lone tree against a starry sky.
Days later, 14-year-old Dave Miner was heading to bed when he heard his uncle yelling outside.
He looked like a ghost. He had a t-shirt on. You couldn't really tell the difference between his skin and his t-shirt. They were both white. He was really shook up.
Dave's Uncle Ellis had been resting on the porch, his dog nearby.
He sits up and peers into the darkness. He stands up and shines a torch onto the undergrowth.
Apparently, Momo had his eye on dinner.
The dog jumped out and started barking and raising Cain, and he turned his flashlight around up in the road, and it was standing there watching him. But I turned the flashlight around on him, and there he was. And I think the thing could actually smell the dog.
The dog lowers its head.
He looked at it, and then it just took off.
He returns to the house.
He was really shook up. And then people, different news people started showing up after that happened.
Within days, Momo was front page news.
It created a fervor around the nation, and press came in from all over just to cover the Momo story.
And Doris Harrison was at the center of a monster story she wished had never happened.
Reporters were bugging us to death. Living in this town, it was hard.
She still was kind of in shock, but she talked to a few of them. She got where she would openly say what she had seen. Of course, there were people that would make fun of her.
When my mom talks about Momo, she's always serious about it. You can tell it strikes her deep in the heart.
While some ridiculed the story, Mayor Tom Wallace decided to rule out any possible danger to the community.
Everybody was talking about it, and some of the mothers were saying, well, I'm going to keep my kids at home.
When the story first came out, Momo was turning over cars. He was breaking trees. He was this big-toothed, mean creature. There was several months of trying to find Momo. Where was Momo? Was Momo real?
This town was up in arms. You should have seen it. I mean, it looked like they had a militia. Everybody had guns, was wanting to go up and hunt Momo.
Mayor Wallace led the effort to root out Momo. His choice for an army was surprising.
I was an advisor for Troop 155, a Boy Scout troop. We thought that if we took a troop of boys up on Star Hill and spent the weekend, we could put everybody's fears to rest.
Scouts, you have now been deputized.
I was 12 years old at the time of the Momo episode.
Calvin, you ready to get this thing?
Yes, sir. It was a little tense, kind of like an adventure, you know.
Be all right.
There was a monster roaming around on Star Hill.
Lights on.
The 21 boys that I went up on Star Hill with, I think he was the guttiest 21 boys I've ever known. They said if there is one up there, we can find him.
He was a big hairy monster, mean and ugly. People were terrified.
The boys search the woods.
Mayor Wallace and his Boy Scouts set out, not knowing what they'd find.
We split up in pairs in case we would get lost.
They scoured every rock and every tree and every brush pile up on Star Hill. And we did have the police department go up there and check to see if they found any tracks or anything. And they all walked Star Hill and found nothing.
An insect takes flight. Sunrise.
Just when it seemed the monster had disappeared without a trace, one family found a way to preserve a bit of proof.
The only piece of physical evidence that I know exists from that time is this footprint. There's nothing that I know of that would leave a print that looks like that.
Monsters and mysteries.
In the fall of 1972, residents of the small Missouri town of Louisiana reported seeing a huge, shaggy, unidentifiable beast. It came to be known as Momo. After months of terrifying encounters, the monster disappeared from view. Just when the community was left wondering if what they'd feared was ever really there, someone found a clue.
A newspaper article about footprints.
My father received a phone call from one of his friends saying that I found prints in my garden and I believe they're prints of Momo. And so my dad and his brother, they took a plaster cast of one of the prints. The only piece of physical evidence that I know exists from that time is this footprint. The toes are odd. It has a very deep heel, so whatever it was heavy.
Both scientists and expert trackers have examined the print and declared it strange. No known mammal runs on 3 toes, nor sinks its heel so deep. With no similarity to any other creature, it's thought to be either fabricated or a sign of something truly amazing.
It could be some creature that science just hasn't discovered yet.
I believe the Missouri monster is a species of Bigfoot. A lot of people in the Bigfoot community think there are different races of Bigfoot, classified by region. And this fits the southeastern Bigfoot with the 3, sometimes 4 toes, the characteristics, the smell. And I think this creature was just migrating. It's been spotted as far north as Arkansas.
No further trace of Momo has ever been found. Yet for those who encountered it, they're certain they saw a flesh and blood monster.
We have miles upon miles of endless woods and deep, deep hollers. He could be just about anywhere in these thick woods we have around here.
You know, you're talking about something that happened 40 years ago, but it's still alive today. And I don't really believe in monsters per se, but somebody's seen something they couldn't explain. And maybe there is something out there, I don't know.
There are a lot of people in town who 100% believe that Momo exists.
I've never doubted what I saw. Never, never will.
A calm stretch of water fringed by woods. A map of Missouri.
300 miles west of Momo's stomping grounds is the small town and farming community of Maryville, Missouri.
It's a quiet farming community, pretty unassuming. I know my neighbors, kids can play outside.
Yeah, I find the people in this area to be very hardworking and easy to get along with and very accepting of other people.
And yet, there's something about Maryville. Pry into its past, and you'll find a town with a surprising amount of pain.
Strange, oftentimes violent events are centered in this area. Within the Maryville area, there was a decade's worth of murders within a 3-month period. There was a town bully that had been killed by the citizens of the town. Some really terrifying things have happened in this corner of the state.
Here, an entirely different monster lurks within the darkness. One that strikes out from the shadows.
Caption: Shadow People.
Maryville seems to harbor a mysterious phenomenon. Strange entities that darken any crevice or corner. Shadow people.
Generally, people see shadow people to begin with out of the corner of their eye, just a fleeting shadow. When they turn their head, it's gone. They're usually taller than a normal human, but they're human-shaped, two-dimensional. Usually, people do not see a shadow person's face.
When you're in a pitch-black room and you see something darker than that, you start asking questions.
Fear isn't quite covered. If you've ever had something happen where you were shocked suddenly, and you feel your body chill, and you feel the blood drain from your face, and your heart's racing, that's what it feels like when one of these shadow people pops in on you unexpectedly, and it scares the nonsense out of you.
The shadow